Welcome to Speaking in Spoons with your host, Christina Brookman.
Hi, my name is Christina Brookman, and I am your host with Speaking in Spoons. And with us today, we have our co-host, Dr. Nathan Strauss, and Jonathan Karusik from DARS, the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you. We're talking about vocational rehabilitation today. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and about DARS.
So I work at DARS, and as you said, DARS stands for the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. And so we help folks with disabilities in a lot of different areas, and we'll go over some of that. My job title, if you see my email, is Workforce Development Specialist. However, the job title that they gave me upon hire is Placement Counselor. So I actually place people into jobs. So I work with businesses and also work with clients, in our office. And I work at the GROW, or the Greater Richmond office, GRO, where we cover Henrico and we cover Richmond and other areas.
Great. So can you tell us what exactly you would do for clients and for so you said that you work with businesses and you also work with clients. How does that work differ? How would you help people with disabilities and help them get jobs?
So DAR's mission is to improve the employment, and that's the number one thing in our mission. Also, quality of life, security, and independence of older Virginians and Virginians with disabilities and their families. So that's kind of like our charge in our mission statement. So we have a lot of different aspects, and I'll go over a few. And if you want to stop me, that's fine too, whenever. But we have disability services. So sometimes people will need like assistive technology to do their work. Like they might need a specialized chair. They might need a mouse with a bigger, ball on it for their hand and stuff. Like I know we gave a lady a pen that you basically scan the words and it's able to type it out. So there's those types of things that we offer. Brain injury services and also things for independent living. Um, we start off with the clients. We have offices all throughout the state. So there's probably an office near you. Like I said, I'm from the Greater Richmond office. We have one in Chesterfield, and we have one in Williamsburg, Fredericksburg, Petersburg. So those are kind of in this particular area, but there's probably one in your area if you're in Virginia. If you're not in Virginia, there's probably a company like us in your state. But basically, they come in, they sign up, we get them enrolled into the program, and then once they get enrolled into a program, they get assigned a vocational counselor. So there's vocational assistance and employment services. There's a grant that we have that we'll talk about a little bit later, hopefully, the career pathways. So maybe stick a pin in that and just remind me. We
Oh,
also
yes,
work,
most definitely.
yeah, we also work with youth. So we have youth in transition. We have what's called pre-ets, like pre-employment services with our students. So we're in all the schools in the area, probably around the state, I'm sure as well. And then vocational rehabilitation and business services, and that's kind of where I come in as far as helping folks. But um, I talked a little bit about vocational counselors. So what they do is they basically assess the client's abilities to figure out like maybe what they want to do, what they can do. They also use multiple tests. Sometimes we have evaluators that come in and they can test people on certain things. We also provide training, certifications for folks for in-demand industries. So like, for example, if you want to drive trucks, we can get you a CDL. If you want to help people in healthcare, we can get you a CNA. There are financial incentives that we can help you with. You do have to meet certain criteria for that. So not everybody is able to do that. But if you meet those certain criteria, we can do that. And then we also assist with issues like childcare, transportation, incarceration, those types of things.
What does it take for somebody to qualify for these services? Do you have to be on disability, or can people with a disability that are not on disability qualify for these services?
Yeah, so we have people that are on disability or Social Security disability insurance, which you hear a lot. There's a lot of misnomers around that too, as we were talking, pre-show about that. So we get people once we get them in, however they come to us. There's 4 different categories, the level of severity of the disability. And some folks haven't even, they're in the midst of applying. Some of them haven't applied for Social Security disability insurance. Some of them are just getting SSI, which is Social Security income assistance. So those 2 things differ a little bit. A lot of times people will think, oh, and this when they come to me, they'll say, oh, I can only get a part-time job working at $9 an hour, and I can only work 20 hours a week. And that might be a misnomer because it's different for everyone. Now, if you're working 40 hours a week and you're making a lot of money, like $20 or $25, it's probably going to affect your Social Security disability. But sometimes people want to get off of Social Security disability insurance and get into employment. So we can help in all aspects. So, really they could call one of the local offices, whatever offices is closer to them, or any of our offices, and we can point them in the right direction. And then they will get, forms either sent to them, or they can come in and fill them out. And then we will turn that over to one of our vocational counselors. And that's kind of how you get started with DARS.
Great. And so, like, I know you talked about like the fear and the miscommunication. That's something that we were talking, just to reiterate what you were saying, just for people out there, because I know this is a scary topic for some people. You do not have to be on disability yet, or like at all, to qualify for these services. If you are deemed like you have a medical disability that is impeding your ability to do work, you could qualify for services. And then
Yeah.
And that's those levels of care, correct? Or not levels of care, but levels of need.
Yes. So, a lot of times people will, have a disability. And when we think about disabilities, we're thinking about like media or commercials or, TV shows or whatever. So we're thinking about like maybe somebody in a wheelchair. We're thinking about somebody that might be deaf or hard of hearing. We're thinking about somebody that might be blind or vision impaired. And when you think about stuff like that, you think, oh, that person's blind, they can't see anything. That's not true. There's a lot of visual impairments that impede sight. Like you can't see peripheral, but you can see everything in front of you. A lot of people can hear some, or they have, adaptive equipment that they use, hearing aids and other devices that they can, you can even utilize, if you have Apple AirPods, you can use your Apple AirPods to turn the volume up on the outside of things and listen to it almost like, the hearing aids. So there's a lot of unseen disabilities too. We've heard about PTSD. That's common. We've heard about anxiety and depression. I mean, that's coming in a lot into the fold. You hear a lot more people that are talking about that, and that's a good thing. You do want to talk about that, and you do want to reach out. Like, don't just be on your own. There are people that want to help you. DARS is one of those organizations, but there's other organizations to help you. You're not out there on your own. There's plenty of people that are dealing with the same issues that you might be dealing with, or it might be different for you. But there, we can assist, and there's other organizations that can assist you. So yes, any seen or unseen disability we can assess with, and any grade level. So if you don't have a GED, you've never graduated high school, you have a GED, You have a bachelor's, you have an associate's, you have a master's, you have a doctorate, you know, a law degree, you know, any kind of education, we can help. And then we help people basically starting in the school system 16 and up. Most jobs you can get are 18 and up, so that kind of creates a little caveat sometimes. Back when I started working, you could work, you know, with a work permit, you could work at, you know, 16. There was a lot more jobs. There doesn't seem to be as many jobs for the youth, but there are some.
And you had mentioned that there are like testing, and so DARS is not just about job placement, it's about those resources that come along with it, like the testing or the education. And is there I know when I was going through it, there's financial services or advice as well. Could
Yeah,
you
because
talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, because a lot of times people, you know, that are on Social Security disability, they're trying to make the bills, they're trying to figure out how to make the bills, you know, and they don't really know how to budget. Those are some things that, you know, we can help with financial services that we can help folks with to figure those things out. You might not know what you want to be when you grow up, whenever that is, right? That could be today or tomorrow or, you know, 10 years from now. We can get you, sometimes we get folks with an employment service organization. So we have like 70 or 80 some across the state that we work with. They work more hands-on than what I would do. I'm more of a guide. So I'm kind of like that NASCAR guy in your ear saying, go left, go right. You know, well, if you're doing NASCAR, it's just going to be one way. But, you know, like we're on a mountaintop, I'm saying, go, you know, or we're going to take this trail, we're going to take that trail. That's kind of how I do with an ESO. They're going to do more. They'll be able to go out on interview with you. They'll be able to do your resume with you. They'll be able to apply with you. They will work the job with you. And once you get acclimated, they will fade away. So we have those services. But training is a big issue. So sometimes we send them to an ESO. They don't know what they want to do. So we assess them. We take them out to certain places. Like when I was a job coach, I took them out to Walgreens and we would do a stock assessment, or we would go to Kroger and we do a bagging assessment. And we're doing that for like 2 to 4 hours to figure out, hey, can they stand up? Can they do the job? Are they going to be able to, you know, function and do what they said they could do, or is it going to be too much? And then sometimes people are like, hey, you know what? I need more training. I figured out what I want to do now, and I need more education, or I need more certifications, and we can get you into that. Now there are financial incentives, like I said, that you have to qualify for. It is the government, it is the state. So you have to provide documentation to see if you qualify for those things, because sometimes people will qualify for an ESO and some others may not. So I don't want people to come in and thinking that all those services are available to them, because for each individual it's different.
Gotcha, that makes sense. And what about those people out there that are scared of, I know there's a lot of people that are sometimes scared of, you know, talking to their employers about their medical conditions for fear of retaliation, but they need accommodations. How does DARS help as like a bridge with accommodations?
So we have started something within the state, and it's called oh, I'm going to get it wrong now. The certificate of disability is what they can get, but I can't think of what the process is called for them. But they can get a certificate of disability and apply for any state job, and they will be able to put that on there. So when they apply, it's on there. When they interview, it's on there. So that's something that's brand new. They call it the alternative hiring process. I know it would come to me. Sometimes, you know, we get brain clouds.
Oh,
So
we understand.
yeah, exactly. It's right there on the tip. But it's
Yes.
called the alternative hiring process, and they will contact our office and get a certificate of disability. When they go to, you know, do the state job, they'll see the spot for that, and they'll put that certificate of disability. Now, sometimes people think that's something I can hang up on my wall, and it says I got. It's not for that purpose. It's a letter, and it doesn't tell them your disability. It just says DARS has recognized that you have a disability and that you're looking for work, and that, you know, a documented disability and that you're looking for work. and you can utilize that for state positions. So what I do is placement. So once they go to a vocational counselor, they come to placement. So that would be, the next step. And we, with the help of our support staff, will get a resume if they don't already have one. We like to call it, workable resume, or basically, something like job ready. So we always have job ready that we're talking about with the vocational counselors, and one of those things is to have a resume. We also assist with applying. I mean, I send out job leads pretty much every week. I send out job fairs every week. And we also assist limitations and accommodations as part of that process of employment. And, like I said, I act as a guide. So people will call me and they'll say, John, I got this thing and I'm not sure what to do here. Do I tell them about my disability? Do I not tell them about my disability? And those types of things. So I guide them. I had one person called me and they said, I got this job and I have another job. What do I do? And I'm like, well, let's talk about it. And they were able to keep the job because they told the other job about it, and they started the second job. The second job didn't work out. So if we didn't have that conversation, they would have lost both jobs. And then we would have had to start that whole process over again. So it's a lot of that. And then we also have financial incentives that we can offer too, that we could talk a little bit more about, when you guys are ready.
Well, would you like to go ahead and my
Sure.
brain just froze. Would you like
See,
to
it's
go
catching.
ahead? It is. It's contagious.
That's
would you
what
like
happens.
to speak to those financial incentives?
Yes, so across the state, not only do we have placement counselors like myself and the vocational rehabilitation counselors, we also have business development managers. And so they go out and they talk to businesses. That's their main focus. They do work with clients as well. They set up internships, they set up unpaid work experience, they set up on the job training. A lot of times, people with disabilities are looking for part time work. Not everybody, but people that are on Social Security disability insurance, when they don't have all the information, when they haven't done a benefit analysis, they don't understand. So they think they can only work part time. Sometimes they can work more than that. But with some of our folks, they might not have the ability to do the job, or have the learning or the certification or whatever, or maybe they just got it and they don't have the experience. So we can set up those internships, unpaid work experiences, on the job training, and also apprenticeships with the Department of Labor. We've been with that new grant that we'll talk about soon, the Pathways Grant. Part of that is working with Department of Labor. We call it DOLI, DOLI, to
Okay.
get folks into the apprenticeships. But the business development managers, they'll arrange, meetings with, the businesses. They'll arrange times to go out to check out the businesses. They'll arrange job fairs. They're always partnering with our job coaches through the ESOs and supportive services and placement. And like I said, there's probably about 6 or 8 of those folks around the state that cover certain areas. So all the offices that I mentioned are part of our area, and that's Wes Seaton, that is our business development manager in this particular area. Did you want me to talk a little bit about the financial incentives, or did you want to move to something else and
Yes,
we can come back to that?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So the financial incentives, what we call it, is like try before you buy. That's kind of how we present it to the employer. It's like, hey, try this person out. They're going to work for you. They're going to come in. They're going to do the job. They already have about 70%. They're going to show up in uniform. They're ready to work. They want to get in here. They're going to be loyal and all that stuff. And we just need to get them over the hump of the 10 or 30% they don't know. And a lot of times, the employer is going to train them anyway. So we set up specific job tasks for like an unpaid work experience. We assist with transportation costs sometimes if you meet that financial need. Usually before the first paycheck. We provide accident coverage for internships and paid work experience, because sometimes that person just needs a little bit on their resume to get them to that next thing, or an internship to get them to that next thing. We sent one of our clients over to the Federal Reserve, and he was on a internship for 2 months. He's still working for him. He started in July of last year, and he's still working with them. And I think they even brought him on as a regular paid employee. So it does work.
That's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's awesome. So along with that, and then I'll let you go. The on the job training. So we do on the job training for folks, and that could be a paid work experience or on the job training. What how you do that is if you just got out of high school or you just got out of college within a year, we can work with a company for 8 to 12 weeks, and we can pay an incentive to that company to hire you. So let's say that that job is $12 an hour, just as an example. We'll pay half of that wage, $6 to save that business money as an incentive to hire you on. And part of that process is paperwork, of course, with the state, with the government, but we do help with that paperwork. So it's basically like filling out a time card and filling out a little bit of additional information about the job seeker and what they've learned or what they accomplished, and then we follow up regularly. And a lot of those people will just go right into a job. Sometimes they're like they don't work out, and they'll come back to us, but at least they've gotten some stuff on their resume to move forward to their next opportunity, and that's what is always a good thing.
I did have one question, going back to something you had brought up. Uh, you mentioned financial counseling, or doing a not financial counseling, but doing a financial assessment. What is a financial assessment or
Okay.
benefits assessment? That's what it was.
Oh, the benefit analysis.
Yes, I'm mixing all the words. Benefit analysis. There
It's
you
all
go.
good. So the benefit analysis is for somebody that's on Social Security disability insurance. We will turn them over to one of our ESOs or our partner agencies, and they will do a deep dive with that person one on one. So all that stuff that I was talking about, like I can only make $9 and work 20 hours, or if I work 40, they're gonna mess up my thing. We can get them one on one with a person and can go over all of their Social Security disability, and they can tell them exactly how much they need to keep in the bank, or how they can keep in the bank, exactly how much they can make, and they can't go over. And so they have more of a clear understanding going into their job or their new, job or looking for work, um, to have a better understanding of what I can make and how many hours I can work. And so then when they come to placement, if they're already with placement, like myself, they'll say, I can do 25 hours and the most I can make is $15, or I can do, 12 hours and the most I can make is $9 or whatever. And then we go
Before I
out and
lose
find
my
work.
benefits.
Yeah, before I
Gotcha.
lose my benefits and we can go to work. Like I said, there's a lot of people that want to come off the benefits and they want to get full-time work, and we can do that as well, and provide those services. So it's a lot of things that we offer, for incentives, for the client, and also for the business. So I mean, I talked a little bit about the paid work experience on the job training. If you are a major business and you go and you apply, a lot of times people will write a resume for a person. However, it's an automatic tracking system. So there's about 95% of companies that use that automatic tracking system. The work opportunity tax credit is already a part of that. But like a lot of our small businesses don't know anything about that. So that's another benefit that the placement counselor or the business development manager can talk to a business about. And that tax credit, is anybody that has a disability that we're working with is automatically, going to get that tax credit for that business. If you have been incarcerated or you have been unemployed or you're on TANF, if you're a veteran, those are some other factors too. The tax credit is up to 40% of the first $6,000, up to $2,400 in wages paid during the first 12 months of employment. And we can help that business set up an account with the Virginia Employment Commission and submit the documentation to them so they can get that tax credit back to their business as an incentive on hiring. And a lot of small companies don't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, because I know of it from the client perspective, but it's interesting hearing it from the how it can help businesses too, then be able to employ people with disabilities as well. Nate, did you have any questions for John before we sign off?
No, I think it's an interesting sort of like, I think, I mean, I use Doors in Maryland, which I know is different than DARS. And from my experience with it, I felt like the pandemic kind of really did a number on that organization. I don't know how things are in Virginia, but I think that there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. I know that I appreciate that part of the government providing that, but it feels a little less cohesive up here. Like, I don't know if it's different down in Virginia, is my question. Is there anything that your organization does that separates it from other states, or is it across the board? Is generally the same, or?
I'm not too sure how they run other or like types of organizations like DARS in other states. I just know how DARS does things. I do know that there's a lot of assistance from the government through DARS, through the state, and also the federal government through the WIOA, which is Work Opportunity. I'm drawing a blank now. But we owe a work opportunity. I can't think of what it's called, but it's a federal program that helps folks without disabilities find work. And you can go and talk to those folks, and that's at RVA Career Works. There's also a city organization, Office of Community Wealth Building, through the city of Richmond. So if you're a city of Richmond resident, you can go to the Office of Community Wealth Building and talk to them. But what happens is we don't do a very good job sometimes of getting the word out there. So we're kind of like a hidden gem sometimes. I mean, we're out at job fairs, we're doing, different things. We're putting different things, working with partner agencies, all that kind of stuff, going on podcasts. We have a podcast that we do. So we try to get the word out there to folks, but it's a lot of word of mouth, and it continues to be a lot of word of mouth. And so, but I don't know the aspect of it from another state.
Right.
Oh, that's totally okay. And I would also say, I think as with any agency or I mean, there's always going to be issues, with any resource or any agency, in Virginia or in other states. And we just have to, work with those agencies. And like, if I would advocate to those listeners and viewers, if you are having a problem with any services or trying to get services, look for people within your state that can help you. There are those people out there, and contact those agencies. I know, like, my experience with some people might be different than other people's, but I have had you also just have to keep open communication, I would say, is the biggest thing. I have found if I talk with people and keep that communication open, 9 times out of 10, they're going to work with me back. So,
Yeah, and if
yeah.
they call our office and they don't, know about our services or know about other services, sometimes they're homeless and they need homeless services before they need our services. Sometimes they need transportation services. So, our agency and other agencies partner with other agencies and other resources, and we know about those other resources. And some of those are on our website and they're linked to that as well. I just wanted to, before we sign off, I just wanted to talk about that career pathways grant because I
Yes,
alluded to it a
please.
little a
Yeah.
little bit. Um, we're in the second year of a 5-year grant called Career Pathways, and what this grant does is it connects Virginians with disabilities to education, training, and industry recognized credentials needed for those higher demand jobs. So each quarter, DARS highlights a particular career pathways through our career cafes. So if you're looking to do something, I know coming up we have people talking about that alternative hiring process, talking about how to get into the state and government and those types of things. That's one of the trainings that they will do for employers, and they'll have employers and employees in that to see what's needed to get that job. So those are career cafes. And then, like I said earlier, we're working closely with the Department of Labor and Industry, DOLE, to obtain federal apprenticeships with local employers. So, employers reach out to us as well. If you're looking for, job seekers, we can assist. And if you've been incarcerated, there's also, through the Department of Corrections, a federal bonding program that can bond somebody up to 6 months for $5,000 to as an incentive to hire that person. So if they're skeptical, they're like, I don't know, this person got a drug charge, or this person stole some stuff. We can get them to go through the Department of Corrections and get that certification, or I mean that letter, and they can get that bond for the job. Now, it's not something you go in and you say, I got this bond, you got to hire me. It's more of an incentive. If you hire me, I'll be bonded, and for 6 months, so in case anything happens to your business, it'll be covered.
Okay. That's good to know. And with those the resource fairs and the job fairs that you're talking about, have any of them moved to online? I know with COVID, a lot of things are going online, and people are working from home a lot, which is also helpful to a lot of people with disabilities. I don't know. I know when I hear work fair, I'm like, well, I wouldn't be able to physically go to one of those. And I know some people couldn't. Is there such a thing as an online work fair at all?
Yeah, the Virginia Employment Commission, which is what people call the unemployment office, but it's actually the employment office. They're looking to get you work. They do job fairs all the time that are through a company. I think it's called Premier, and they are basically like, if you and I are talking on Messenger, it's basically like that. You like kind of log on, you go into the first room, and then there's room for other employees or all the employers, and then you like kind of IM them. So I'll be at a job fair, I'll be doing my other job at the desk, on my computer typing away, and then I'm IMing a couple of the employers saying, "Hey, I work with DARS. I'm looking to get people hired. Let's chat. What's your email address, whatever." And I'll do that 3 or 4 employees, and then they're, while I'm working, they're coming through saying, "Hey, we want to work with you guys. Here's my email address. Contact me." Da da da. And so it's the same kind of thing for you. You would go on there and say, "I'm interested
Yeah.
in this company. I'm interested in that company." Now we are doing in-person events. We just recently had one that we were co-sponsored with for the Virginia Career Works, that federal workforce. It's
Yeah.
Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. That's WIOA. That's the federal workforce. And we just had a job fair at the Fairfield Library where we had probably, I want to say we had 15 or 20 employers in a live environment that people could come back and do that in-person job fair too. And if you couldn't, if you applied, we still had those contacts. We could send that information over to the company for you, and get you hopefully something back or get you hired.
That's great. Thank you, John. This has just been a wealth of important information, and we're actually going to have VR Workforce Studio on the same episode, so people can hear about. That's the podcast for DARS.
Yes.
Is there anything final thoughts you'd like to share before we sign off?
Well, a couple things. One is, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on our website. It's vadars.org. And we're on Facebook at VADRS as well. So check us out there. And also, I just want to say, anybody that's out there that's looking for work, that has an unseen or seen disability and you need assistance, call us. We can point you in the right direction, get you in for training, get you in for evaluation, to see if you can do the task that you want to do or the job that you want to do. We can get you into a job, into training, into certifications. We definitely want to work with you, and that's what we're here for to do. And before you know it, you'll turn around and you'll have one person on your team, then you'll have 2, then you'll have 3, and you'll be like, "Man, all these people are working for my benefit to get me that job, or to get me that training, or to get me financial planning or whatever it is. Help me with the benefit analysis. So we are here to help with that. And also employers, if you're out there and you're unsure about what an unseen disability is or a seen disability, we have a training called Windmills that we could provide that gets people together to talk about disabilities in an open forum where they are more likely to figure those things out and to have these, brains, not brain clouds that we've been having, but these light bulbs that go off about disabilities, and what they can do to hire more people. And it really opens up their minds saying, oh man, I never really thought about it like that. Never really thought about it like this. Even some of our champion employers that hire people with disabilities all the time, they learn some things from the Windmills training as well. There's like 12 different modules. Sometimes we do the same module, where it's getting people involved in that disability piece of it. But I'm glad that you're going to have, DARS on and their podcast, because that's good information and they can go over there and check that out. So you'll get that information, from is it was Speaking Spoons? Is that what it? No, that's not what it's called. What is it?
VR Workforce Studio.
No, but what is the
Oh, our
podcast?
podcast,
Yeah.
Speaking in Spoons, a
Speaking
chronically
in
ill
Spoons.
podcast. Yeah, they
Okay.
actually had me on last month. That episode is up on our website under news, like a link to that and to VR Workforce Studios main site. And it was really wonderful because I have been working with DARS on and off for about 9-10 years, and it's just been just an incredible service for myself. I've had the same tech counselor the whole time, and she's just been a huge support, and it's just taught me things about how I could possibly contribute and work, maybe at some point, or, it's just been very helpful. And I wanted to give other people that information because those services are out there and so many of us don't realize it is. So I can't thank you enough for coming in today and giving us this information, and and I'm learning new things. I can't wait to go to the website and learn more. And for our followers, you can find John's bio and the link to DARS on our website as well, at www.speakinginspoons.com. And stay tuned so you can hear from VR Workforce Studio, which is a DARS podcast that interviews people with disabilities that have gone through the vocational rehabilitation process. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Christina Brookman, your host with Speaking of Spoons, with the lovely co-hosts Nate and Lexi. We are back on our episode of Working in Disability with representatives from VR Workforce Studio podcast from DARS, Rick Sizemore and Betsy Civilette.
We're so very excited to be here and really to be witnesses to this incredible new podcast that you've launched, and the numbers of people that you are reaching and the message that you have. It's great to be here, isn't it, Betsy?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you. I was very fortunate and honored to get to be on your podcast just recently, and that was an exciting and wonderful experience, along with Dr. Bloom of Ehlers-Danlos National Society for the Rare Disease Awareness Day. So thank you again for that opportunity, and I'm just so excited to have you on our podcast today as fellow podcasters, and also just to share your incredible insights and experience with your podcast and DARS and this concept of working in disability. So why don't you both tell us a little bit more about yourselves and your podcast?
Yeah. Well, before I introduce Betsy, just kudos to you for your messages on our podcast and your outreach to Dr. Bloom and Ehlers-Danlos Society. We did get a really nice letter back from Carol Doback, who leads the Rehabilitation Services Administration, telling us how much she enjoyed hearing you talk about your life and your story and what you're doing. So again, congratulations on what's turning out to be a really great new podcast, particularly for people with disabilities and those who are interested in helping people with disabilities. Let me introduce my colleague and good friend, Betsy Civilette. She is the communications director at the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. You'll hear us refer to that as DARS, so you'll know what we're talking about when we say DARS. She's the co-host of the VR Workforce Studio podcast. Betsy joined DARS back in 2012. Hard to believe that she's been there a decade plus. It happens so quickly when you love your job. But she drives the marketing and the public relations efforts in the DARS communications team. And together we promote the agency, its mission, and overall public awareness of assisting people with disabilities and older Virginians. Betsy also supports the agency's business and workforce development programs across Virginia. And as you know, we not only serve people with disabilities, we're reaching out to business and industry across Virginia to help connect people with disabilities to those jobs that need to be filled. So in that regard, Betsy creates content, manages social media, the website, marketing materials, and very importantly, events. Prior to joining DARS, Betsy was a freelance writer, a graphic designer, and an independent communications consultant. She holds a master's degree in journalism from Ohio University and a bachelor's degree in corporate communications from Ithaca College. She is a top professional and has been a joy to work with over these past several years that Betsy and I have been involved in this work. She's certainly the person behind the vision for excellence at DARS in our communications outreach. So Betsy, it's always good to be here with you and involved in the podcast community.
Thank you, Rick. That was, very wonderful introduction. And likewise, it's such a pleasure to be co-host of VR Workforce Studio with you. Rick has had a successful 33-year career in vocational rehabilitation. He's earned both state and national Rehabilitation Association leadership awards in his final year as a VR executive. But now I have the pleasure of having Rick work with me at DARS and the communications team since 2019. And which is now he's in a role as his second career as musician and a producer. So he's the one who produces our VR Workforce Studio. And Rick is a very talented musician, having written, recorded, produced, and performed music, published educational materials and broadcast audio and video for TV and radio, and has even earned recognition from Billboard magazine. I did not know that. I'll share that story sometime. But so again, Rick is the host and creator of our VR Workforce Studio podcast.
Exciting. It's wonderful to learn all of these things about you. And Betsy, I was briefly in Ohio and I loved it. I got to work at Toledo School of the Arts. So go Ohio.
Awesome.
You guys are just doing such amazing work with DARS and this podcast. Do you have any favorite stories of interviews, like your favorite interviews?
Well, absolutely. One of my recent favorites, and I'll bet Betsy's as well, is your podcast. That was so inspiring. Absolutely. And to hear about you and the work that you've done is just truly amazing, very inspiring. Betsy, you may want to comment on that as well.
Thank you.
No, I agree. I was just going to say that really is one of my favorites, because not only we got your perspective from local standpoint, but then got this national, global, really representative talking about, issues. But the great thing is it's relatable. I mean, whether she's in London, you're here. I mean, the issues are the same. The obstacles and barriers and challenges that you guys have had, you could relate. And like Rick said, it's like just hearing everything you've accomplished, even though maybe things didn't go exactly, along your career path, but everything you are continuing to accomplish despite those challenges that you've had is to me, it's so amazing and inspiring.
You
Thanks,
never
Sarah.
really know what's going to happen when you start an episode in a podcast. And so one of our favorites, I know Betsy and I share in this, is the story of George Dennehy. He's a fellow who was born in a Romanian orphanage with no arms, and he wound up in this country living in Ashland, Virginia, and went through the school system locally, and came to Wilson Workforce and Rehabilitation Center and learned to drive as a person with no arms. He has quite an extraordinary story, because while he was enrolled in vocational rehabilitation, he wanted to perform music in a local talent show in Ashland. And without getting into his whole story, while singing a cover song of a rock group, the song Iris, that you may have heard,
Goo Goo Dolls.
the Goo Goo Dolls,
Mhm.
someone taped it on their phone, put it on YouTube, and a few weeks later, the Goo Goo Dolls called him and said, "Hey, how would you like to perform with us?"
Oh,
And
wow.
so, there's all this footage on the internet of him performing with the Goo Goo Dolls. But that led us to a place where, as George's career as a musician and a singer and a motivational speaker and a spokesperson for Voc Rehab, as that unfolded, it brought us to an opportunity to actually record 2 songs with George. And Betsy will remember the day we met George at the studio in Richmond. And it was an amazing day, because he recorded really 2 songs, one that's referred to as the national anthem for vocational rehabilitation, and it's a music video and a very inspiring song that was written by one of our former RSA assistant commissioners, and then repurposed through the national organization, the Council of State Administrators for Vocational Rehabilitation, or of Vocational Rehabilitation. And that's got quite a lot of views on YouTube. From there, it led to a second song that was also released through the national organizations, had a lot of traffic on YouTube. And it's a music video called Work Makes the World Go Round. And it features vocational rehabilitation clients from all across the country in their various work sites, doing the work that they've trained to do, and showcasing their success with George in the background singing. If you want to hear that video, just you can type it in YouTube, Work Makes the World Go Round. You can find that and an interview with George at vrworkforcestudio.com in the library, easily to find. It's in all of the show notes. So you just never know. One other really quick story about a favorite was that we did have the opportunity to interview the Blue Man Group. And during Autism Awareness Month in April, they actually do some special shows. And Betsy, you may have more on the thing with George, but that's certainly one of my favorite episodes.
I do. Rick reached out to George and said, "Hey, we want to do a song about VR and how, about work." And George literally, I think within 24 hours had created this song and came back with this profound, lyrics about VR and having disability and going to and having work. So he just captures the essence of not only vocational rehabilitation, but work and how work people identify with their lives with work and how it does make the world grow. So it was the most fascinating, experience that I've had. And George is just such an extremely talented individual that just highlights the fact that it's all about your abilities, that you're putting to work.
Yeah,
So you guys
that's
are
incredible.
muses.
Mhm.
Yes. She called you a muse.
Well, one of the things that's also really intriguing about that video, it involves so many people with different kinds of disabilities, and there's this amazing drone footage that was shot by a fella named Rob Corbett, and he's a national leader in a movement of individuals with disabilities really working in the drone industry. He works for Drone Deploy. I believe they're based in San Diego, and they have activity all over the country, and they're really a leader in recognizing the unique skills and talents of people with disabilities and their ability to operate drones. Rob was had a career in the Air Force. He's an amazing person who operates a drone from a wheelchair, and in the video you have his drone actually providing footage of a fleet of drones being operated by vocational rehabilitation students who are in training to learn to operate drones. So it's layers and layers of this
That's
intriguing.
really cool.
So we hope you'll go out and see that video again. Just type it in, "Work Makes the World Go Round." You can see that.
Literally, so they were going around, and the theme of that video, was every different jobs that people do, like cooking, stirring, the things that go around. But anyways, hope you can take a look at that.
Well, we're going to have a link to VR Workforce Studio on our website along with this episode, so that people will be able to check that out. That's I love that story and the song, because we've been talking about this, the co-host and I, about, I mean, the three of us can't work. This podcast has been kind of our journey to it's a passion project for us. We don't know where it's going to go in the future, but all three of us are dealing with a lot with our health. But the concept that sometimes people with disabilities feel as though people see us as lazy, or that we don't want to work, but so many people out there really do want to work. And that's what I love about the idea of vocational rehabilitation and what you're doing with this podcast, getting these stories out, kind of letting people know all the different paths that people can take to different forms of employment or internships or things, just to make them feel like they have a purpose again, which is so important to life.
Well, we actually experienced that this week. We were interviewing a VR client for our current episode, and she was on disability for 10 years and did not work. And she started talking about, her counselor just called her up out of the blue and just said, "Hey, this nursing rehabilitation facility is looking for somebody, receptionist, admin job." Got hired like on the spot. And she was telling us about this. It's a perfect fit for her. And she started getting emotional about it. And it's just really, I mean, how can you not be touched by someone whose life has altered because of, like you said, they've been able to now do something that makes them feel more of a person, and and having an identity. And so it is I feel blessed, truly, like, humbled by people that like I said, have had the courage even to kind of share their stories with us like that.
Well, and you're helping give people a voice, which is so important. Where do you see the future of the podcast going?
Well, we are part of the community of podcasters that have emerged. We've been around since 2015. We just had a birthday. We launched in February of 2015 on my dad's birthday, February 18th. And over that time, we've slowly emerged and built the audience and developed connections. such that this year we were recognized by the National Rehabilitation Association as their Excellence in Media Award holder. So we've been very, very fortunate. The Podcast Business Journal has referred to us as the nation's voice for sharing powerful and compelling stories of vocational rehabilitation. Our success is really the success of people who are willing to share their stories. And so with that in mind, we hope to continue to grow our networks. We're partnered with Council of State Administrators of Vocational Rehabilitation. They market the federal and state VR programs to the country, the National Rehabilitation Association. Both Betsy and I sit on their social media committee. And so moving forward, we want to partner with people just like you and see the network of podcasters who are involved in the conversation about disability grow and give more of a voice to people with disabilities, but also provide that level of information and inspiration that may be needed by someone who's given up. So many of our podcast guests describe their lives as before Voc Rehab and after Voc Rehab. And oftentimes the before stories are quite sad. You know, I had reached the end of my rope. I didn't know what I could do. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I actually had one fella who referred to himself as I was at home waiting to die. And he is stuck in the bed, and he was able, because of the encouragement of one physical therapist, to get up and walk a few steps. Through the course of vocational rehabilitation, he learned to walk a mile and returned to his job in manufacturing from a scooter, and is still today working and leading. So we we want to create more and more awareness in the community of people with disabilities and those that are involved with that community to understand there is a path forward. And just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you might not have many abilities that can be brought to bear for business and industry. And I know Betsy feels these same kinds of being called to that message.
Yeah, but you articulate it so much better.
I doubt that.
But, you know, our bottom line, our vision, our mantra is podcasting the sparks that ignite vocational rehabilitation. And through these inspiring stories of people with disabilities who have gone to work through VR. That's what it's all about. And we found a model that works for our podcast, similar to you. You know, you guys really have come upon a great model for your podcast and our audience. You know, we've defined it in 3 ways of having: first, the individuals with disabilities who share their stories; second, you know, businesses or organizations who hire people with disabilities; and lastly, VR professionals that have dedicated their lives and careers to helping people along their path to employment and finding the right fit for them based on their abilities.
Wonderful. I'm so excited that we have connected, and I'm looking forward to seeing and listening to where your podcast develops in the future, and just keeping that connection of fellow podcasters. Nate and Lexi, did you have any final questions before we sign off?
No, they really covered everything really very eloquently. So
Well, thank you.
I don't really have any questions.
Did you
Lexi is
also,
celebrating Halloween in February.
Oh yeah, love it. Well, I love your cats. I'm a cat lady.
Thank
so
you. I wasn't expecting her to make an appearance. That's Julie.
It's
Did
wonderful.
I miss that? Phoenix knocked my camera down, so I apologize.
Yeah, I wondered if
That's my
that's what
cat.
happened
Yeah,
too.
that was
We were
Phoenix.
having
He-
cat. They all wanted to come see you, Betsy.
Yeah.
And now I'm a cat lady. Yeah.
Oh, me too. Totally.
Were you able to interview John Karasek?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
he's in the moment before it'll be a split episode all about yeah, about vocational rehabilitation and working. Nate, did you have any final thoughts or questions?
Well, I think the most entertaining part of this whole thing has been the stories about individuals that you've touched with this podcast. And I think like what you with the Romanian guy with no arms and his songwriting ability, I thought was so amazing. It's just like has is that kind of is it that kind of stuff that kind of keeps you going in this podcast? Like just meeting these individuals that are just so amazing and you would never know it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I don't work. This is not work.
Yeah.
This is sheer joy. And every time we meet someone, and not everyone's story is going to be as dramatic as George's, although his is completely over the top. It's this simple conversations that Betsy referenced when we were speaking to Kim Roberts, who's going to be the guest in our upcoming episode. I mean, she broke down and she said, I had nothing, and this job means everything to me. Sometimes it's just the simple act of learning that the door has been opened, the path is unfolding, and people are living more fulfilling lives because of work.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I look
Yeah.
forward to needing your services soon if my doctors can get their stuff together.
All right. All right.
Can help.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's
Finding-
just so important, and we're so blessed to have met and talked with the people that we have as well. And like you said, just learning from them and hearing their stories. And Betsy, you had said something earlier about how Dr. Bloom, what she had experienced was just like internationally identifiable. We've found so many people are, no matter where they are, no matter what their disability, there's a lot of universality in
Yeah.
the experience.
Absolutely. Common ground that you can.
Yeah. And so just being a part of giving them the voice and learning from them has just been incredible. And I just think it's wonderful what you're doing. Did you have any final thoughts before we sign off, Rick or Betsy?
No, just a thank you for having us and letting us spread our message through your podcast.
Well, and I would say the power of connection. And that's why what you are doing is so very, very important. Betsy and I have long careers with working with individuals with disabilities. Each of us have some very minor disabilities, but you're engaged in discussing this from your own unique and personal stories, which seem to be very involved and very significant. People are so interested in that. The Dr. Bloom's involvement with this podcast, of course, after the episode came out about you, she sent out a tweet, and within just a few minutes, there were 300 different people who had responded to that tweet because of her worldwide reach. And all of those people now know you and know the story you tell about your life and how you continue pushing forward. You've had a little break from the master's in clinical social work, but you're doing this podcast, which we've actually referred to as a second career now in communications. And while most podcasts don't start out really with the idea of being having a financial element, there's always the potential. You never know when you start this where this vision you have will actually take you. So please, every podcaster has to be ready to be knocked down. One of the podcast coaches that I worked with, one of his favorite questions for successful podcasters is, did you find a time when you just wanted to throw in the towel and say, I just can't do this anymore? And every, excuse me, every successful podcaster has those moments. You have to have that belief and that vision, which you obviously have to sustain you through the challenges of creating these ongoing episodes and the technical things that go on and the sometimes challenging nature of pulling all this together. The most people don't realize there's
Yeah.
a lot of work that you're putting into this, but I believe it's going to pay off. And I told Betsy, you know, after we talked with you, I said, there's a rock star and your co-host as well. There's a rock star in the making. And so we just sing your praises and know that this is going to be something that benefits everybody and provides a great impact on the disability community and the world. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Rick.
you.
That means a lot to all of us. We're very this is a very, like I said, passion project for us, and so your kind words just mean the world. And it's a huge compliment coming from both of you after your experience and what you do. So thank you so much for being on our show. We hope to have you back again at some point and keep connecting. And listeners, stay tuned for Lexi and Nate and I to do a follow-up discussion about work and disability. Happy spoons.
Happy.
Welcome back. We are still on our episode about work and disability. This is Christina and Lexi and Nate. So what did you guys think about John and what DARS does for people, which is the Department of Aging and Rehabilitation Services? And then we just also spoke with Rick and Betsy about their podcast. So basically the idea of working and disability, vocational rehabilitation. What are your thoughts on that and your experiences?
Well, when I listen to their podcast, they feed off each other so well. Like, and they're so much more structured and organized than I could ever be. But yeah, no, that what they do, they're unsung heroes, definitely. And
what do you think about the idea of work? What has been your experience with work and disability? Have either of you done vocational rehabilitation?
no.
And for those listeners out there, that is, we spoke with John about that, but there are organizations in your state and in Virginia, we have DARS, or the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and they will help you find employment that you're able to do and work with you on getting accommodations and things like that. They also work with businesses. But I think it's something that's just not as well known that these services are out there. Did you feel like when you first became disabled, did you feel like you could talk to your employer about your disability?
No, because they had already labeled me even before I got long COVID. They had already labeled me, and they had this, like they had a talk with me about how I was a liability on site.
Really? What did they
Yeah,
like how?
because of me going paralyzed at any second.
Oh, because of the hemiplegic migraines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a bit of a liability, I guess. Like,
Yeah, and I'm a security guard, so I'm there alone, except for like one
Right.
other person on the site. And so, yeah, like, I mean, there's been times where people were chasing, like, like you had to chase somebody down, and I can't go paralyzed. Like, well, and yeah, and that develops into a lot of agoraphobia of like leaving the house because
Leaving the
you don't know
house
if you're gonna,
because
like, it's a liability to go anywhere. One
yeah,
time I
you're
went.
scared to go by yourself.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'd have to call in and have people come in. It's like once a week, or
Yeah.
I would literally go into work and within the first 15 minutes would have to leave because I went paralyzed, or like 4 hours in, or have like an hour left on my shift and I'm just paralyzed in the chair.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not very accommodating to that, and they can't really
Yeah.
be. And like, you can't deal with the lights, the computers, it feels kind of hopeless until we get the migraines under control and like the back in order,
Yeah.
but like, and the pain under control. But
The pain under control.
whenever
Like
things
right
get
now, like there are like, I mean, and I'm on disability. I'm at a point where I can, and the idea, we talked about this with Tim in our first episode, there's multiple ideas of what disability is. And like right now, you and I, Lexi, are we cannot work 40 hours a week
no,
disability. We cannot maintain a full-time job because it will,
dude, I
it's
can't even
just
do
too much.
part-time
Yeah.
right now.
Or part-time. Yeah.
Don't be
Like
overshooting me.
how many podcast stuff did we cancel or did I cancel recently?
Dude, I feel
A
like we've
lot.
canceled the last 2 weeks because we knew it was going to be horrible, and it has been
Pretty
horrible.
much. But
Yeah.
and
But at
Nate,
least
you've talked to were you gonna say, Nate?
I mean, I've had like I think I talked about this before about how my family was very against me even telling my employer that I was sick because
Yeah.
of the liability. But I mean, I was inspired by our interview today because these are veteran podcasters. They've been doing this for over almost a decade or longer. I think that's so amazing that you can turn this into a career. I never would have thought about that. And it's something, as hard as it's been for you guys, I think this is still, you don't have to go anywhere. We can do this from the comfort of our home. It's something that's viable. Like it
Well,
wouldn't
and
be a full-time job, but
that's why I wanted to do this episode, because I think there are, when you work with vocational rehabilitations counselors in places like DARS, which is what Rick and Betsy and John are all a part of. They're helping people like us and like
Right.
the disabled people we bring on the show figure out what we can do. Like maybe we'd never be able to do 40 hours of this kind of thing a week, so we'd still need to be on disability. I don't know, but it's a step in a direction of something, right?
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean, you guys are the ones that do everything. So,
it's not true, Lexi. You show
yeah,
you
you do. I don't really do much. So, like, these are the rock stars. Let's just get the credit where the credit is due. Christina
Yeah,
and
but
Nate.
you're bringing Halloween to February, and without Lexi, we wouldn't have that.
And you
And
wouldn't.
you remember, you're the, I can't even drop the bombs, but you're the bomb in our Netflix, right?
Yeah, I'm the
Even though we're not on Netflix.
Get a
Yeah.
Netflix special. It's going to be all about you.
Oh no, it's just gonna be me like cursing for like 50 minutes.
I'll be
But
part of
Be like,
it.
let
But
me
that's,
tell
I
you.
let me tell you, bomb. But like, how, I think people really, I mean, people don't realize there are services out there like this to help
I
you.
didn't have any clue.
Yeah. And you know what they also do? They do financial counseling. So like the government doesn't want you to just, okay, you have to go back to work. They want you to work. So they give you all these resources to try to help you transition. But like, they're not just going to throw you to the wolves. They help you figure out how much money you can like get paid, how many hours you can do to keep your disability for a while, like as you transition, like all that, you can keep your insurance for a while through certain programs, like through transit, like all of this stuff. And you find that out through organizations like DARS and the people they team up with, because they work with companies outside that will, and that's just so invaluable, because that's a scary thing, because like when you're disabled, your income and your health insurance. Like it's not a lot at all, but it's everything. It's all you have,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, I owed like, and then, it doesn't cover stuff out of state. So if you have to go out of state because you have a rare disease, that's like
Yeah,
600,
like us.
700
Yeah.
bucks. And
Oof.
that's fun.
But
Like,
there are programs out of state too. But like, did you know, Lexi? Like, because you talked about with the migraines, the light, and all of this stuff. Like, my tech counselor, Pat, who I love and adore, because I've had her for like 10 years, because I keep trying. Okay, like, I've been on disability. I've been unemployed for 12 years. I have been trying to work for 12 years. So it's not like I have just been laying on my butt. Like, people don't do, like, we want to do something. We want to have a purpose. We want to, like, who wants to just lay in bed all day and watch TV? It's depressing.
I think the
Have
most
we all
important
done
thing
that?
is to
Do we
realize
do
it's
that?
important
People
to fail.
Imagine life like that, but then when the reality of it is like, I think
It's
a lot of regular people wish they could spend life in bed watching TV.
Yeah.
But the
No, it
reality,
drives you crazy after like a week.
but
Yeah,
when that's only what you can do, I think that's what's the grim reality of it, is that
Yeah.
like, you're using that, you're forced to do that.
That's
Yeah.
a great way of saying that, Nate. Yeah, like, yeah, you just hit it. Yeah, you're forced to. It's all you can do. And sometimes you can't even do that
Yeah.
because it
Right.
triggers, or you don't have the money
Your
to.
photo-
Like I tried to get a degree, and with the long COVID, my memory is so messed up. I couldn't even pass a course that I've passed 3 times before with no less than a 98 in. And
Yeah.
I failed it.
memory is
Like,
a big deal.
I mean,
And that's
I
a symptom for a lot of disorders. So a lot of
Yeah.
people will identify with that, Lexi.
yeah.
But Pat, like, what I was gonna say is because when I was trying to get my master's, I can't type that much because of pain and neck issues and things that go on, and problems with the photophobia. So she was trying on different glasses with me to see if like that might protect me, like, the light, looking at different computers, different chairs. I got the Dragon program so
Yeah.
that I don't have to. Yeah, because if I type too much, oh my God, like, it's awful. So there's so much they can do and help you with.
Yeah.
It's just, and I can't
I
wait
wish I had
I
known
hope
about it when I was in school.
yeah, but now, for people out there that are in school, look at your state, look for resources like this,
Mhm.
but also talk to your school. We're going to do an episode on education and disability, because once you turn 18, your parents can no longer help you. So if you're on an IEP or a 504, it's your responsibility to take that to your school's accessibility department
But a
and
lot of
make sure your
accessibility
needs
departments are
get
jokes.
pardon?
A lot of accessibility departments at like schools are kind of jokes.
Well, it really depends. Like, you have to go, and if they're not giving you what you need, programs like DARS they work with you to make that happen. So
I
you
feel like it's more important to have a better teacher that understands. I mean, accessibility, you need the accommodations, but a teacher that understands versus a teacher that
Yes,
doesn't
but you
makes
have
all
to
the
have it
difference.
in. A lot of reasons why it's not happening with your teachers is because you don't have it in writing.
No, I have it in writing. I had it in writing, and some of them still didn't care.
With the accessibility department,
Yes.
huh? That's when you go to DARS, because that's crap, and you go over their head.
Look in the
I don't
show.
know. We'll find somebody to tell them about, like, to talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, like, if you
And I
can't
think
go,
it depends on the department, because I was in a social work department, so of
but
course
this was
they were
also
understanding.
pre-pandemic, and they wouldn't offer Zoom.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would be paralyzed and stuck at home, and you can't, like, this was before
You can't
when
come to
Zoom was
class.
too hard for them,
Yeah.
you know, and then pandemic. So like, you know, things have obviously changed. So I am coming from a
Yeah,
old
can-
place.
But that's an important place to come from, because that's where, like, you know, I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is to allow people to go to school and work from home. Period. There's so many conditions that we need that that is an accommodation, a legit accommodation.
Yeah.
Like I'm realizing, like, if I were to ever get my degree in social work, how am I going to leave the house? Like, let's say we get my smell thing under, for those of you, like Lexi and I have hemiplegic migraines. You're laughing at me, Lexi. It's a type of migraine. Dylan was calling me like a wolf. It's a type of migraine where the right side of your body goes paralyzed, and it could look like a stroke. It takes a while to diagnose. I was misdiagnosed for many, many years. Um, and Lexi, you were too, right? It took a while.
No, like it took 10 years for them to, they were just like, it's a migraine.
Yeah.
You know, but they weren't telling me it's a hemiplegic migraine and you need to be
Hemiplegic
on
migraine.
preventatives and
Yeah,
you need
which
to
is
be, like,
totally different. Yeah.
yeah.
Because like regular migraines, you can walk around. Hemiplegic migraines, like you literally, like I can't lift. I've been hospitalized for a week where I can't lift my right leg.
Yeah.
You know, I cannot use my right hand, and my right face is like drooping and like drooling.
Yeah.
So, like, um,
Times.
I don't know where I was going with
You were
this.
talking about how you're a wolf and how your
Oh, the
olfactory,
smells.
yeah, will
Because
make you.
like smells will trigger it. And you know, lights trigger it, but smells big time. And you know how people wear perfumes and lotions, but also the hand
Yeah.
sanitizer, even different soaps, the smell will trigger it. And then I'm out. So
And it doesn't
but
always happen for everybody. Like smells are different. Like for
yeah,
me, it's that I have hallucinations of smells. Like I'll smell
yeah,
Indian food in the middle of the woods and I'll be like, oh, there's one coming, you know.
yeah.
So, you know, I mean,
I
it's
smell
different for
burning a
everybody.
lot when there is not burning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then it's like, am I having a stroke right now, or is this
yeah.
because it's so similar?
But like, even if we got that fixed, my overheating problem is insane. That's why that was one of the big reasons I had to quit 12 years ago, because I had an ice vest, ice cap, like, and I was still having problems. So like this whole work from home thing is really cool now,
Yeah.
It's
The
like the
because
most audacious thing a job
I
did
can
to me.
keep my home like Antarctica, you know, frigid ice box with no light and no smells.
I once
That's like
worked at a
heaven.
live in a void. Yeah.
Yes, an abyss.
Like I
Be
once worked at a
beautiful.
job and I had an attack and they literally just took me, had one of the guys pick me up and put me on the back loading dock until one of my rides came in an hour and a half.
They
And
left you
picked
like
me up.
that?
They left me paralyzed on the back
They just
loading
left
dock
that animal on the.
on
That's,
Halloween night.
that's
Oh
so
my
much.
God, that's awful.
Yeah,
That's
isn't
why
it?
you have all these skeletons behind you, Lexi.
Oh
For
yeah.
those that are listening, Lexi's background literally is skeletons, because she's like, that's my mood right now.
Well, it's one
That's how
skeleton
I feel.
screaming or yawning. Maybe
It hurts so
Oh,
bad.
Nate, what do you think vocational rehabilitation might be able, how could they help you?
I mean, I've done a little bit. I mean, well, I've done physical therapy and occupational therapy, and they got me help. Like the organization up here helped me out a lot with like, well, I just feel like everything kind of fell apart with the pandemic because they had a whole work plan for me, and then
Uh-huh.
the woman that was heading it left, and I'm wondering if
Okay.
that had something to do with the pandemic. But then I've just been passed around to
Yeah.
people. And it's just like I think those people are overwhelmed with how much workload they got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an organization that is a good one, but it's been sort of left in disarray by a lot
Right.
that globally. But I think it can help. Like, I think what I would like to do with my degree is to work independently, and these kind of organizations can help you with that, which I think
Yeah.
is really important, because it's a lot to put on your plate, especially when you're a disabled person, to try to figure out all the ways to work as an entrepreneur or whatever independently.
In a way that won't like affect your health. Yeah.
That too. I would
Yeah,
love
because you can't drive too. So, and you're living in an area, so like the whole work from home would be important for you too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm lucky my program is virtual, because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm currently seeing people all over the planet, but virtually. Like, it's
Yeah.
something to not be able to do if I had to do my residency physically.
Yeah. I miss working
Cool.
in a lab. I want to do that, but I don't,
I-
you can't be handling like, toxic chemicals whenever you can drop it in.
Boom, paralyzed.
Really don't want to be doing that.
Botulism released.
Yeah, you could release the next
Face
Ebola.
plant right now, right into this MRSA.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
explains so much, Lexi. It's
Yeah.
in your brain.
Probably.
But I like the interview today, because I think it's something that people can start listening to, like,
Yeah.
beyond the podcast. They can start listening to this podcast and really start putting things together, like how they can help themselves. I think that this podcasting universe, like, that has sprung up over the last decade or so, has really opened up a lot of people to be able to share their knowledge and views, and it's sort of broken the stranglehold that a lot of these broadcasting corporations, that I will not name one, but like, I think it wasn't like they were trying to hold all the information, but all the news shows and whatever dictated what people could be informed about. But this podcasting thing has sort of blown up this
Makes
ability.
us more of a community.
It does make it a community, and it's interesting. Like, I can go on Spotify and just search for something that's interesting to me, and I'll find like a million podcasts about it.
Yeah.
And they're not all good. Some of them are trash, but like,
We're
they're
probably trash too, but let's just be realistic. about
Somebody's
it.
trash is another person's gold,
someone will find us trash.
Look, self-deprecating sense of humor is all I got, man.
Yes, since 2008.
I am the blank in the mother blank of Netflix. Oh God, I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah, you can cut it.
I'm such a Bambi. Okay.
Bambi?
Yeah, I don't know what that meant either. My brain is not functioning. I think it's time to sign off.
Asia, the aphasia has called an end to the episode. We are.
No, but this was a good episode. I'm excited to
I
see
am
it.
too.
think-
It's definitely lit a fire under my ass.
Yeah. And pay
Oh.
attention, people listening. We got a lot of good episodes coming up this season. It's going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
I almost went a whole episode without cursing, man.
Well, we
Check
gotta
out our website. We've got so many wonderful episodes coming up. Episodes about nursing homes and assisted living, like for the elderly, but also for the disabled, which hits at people at all kinds of ages. And this is important for people to be talking about and thinking about, because the assisted living and nursing homes are not the ones of our great grandparents or grandparents generation, and we want to
Yeah.
make sure that our loved ones are cared for. So listen, and we've got some wonderful guests coming on to share their personal stories with disability. So check out the website, listen to look at the schedule. I'll also be doing updates on Spoony Sundays. So save your spoons, and we're sending you extra ones. Bye.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or email to speakinginspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have or would like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. And check out our website for all of our upcoming episodes and what's happening in the Speaking Spoons community at www.speakinginspoons.com. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.